It's a bit late to be out driving around, isn't it? Well, listen, you think of an original way to start the programme each week. Now, tonight you could win a holiday in Corfu, music from Yvonne Brennan, and a little magic. It's all in Whale On. Cue titles: 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And also the plight of the homeless, something people normally only talk about during the winter. But this week seems to be quite an apt week to talk about it as well. When I walk past, sorry, you're supposed to shout out something. What do you shout out?
Buy the big issue.
Buy the big issue, right, OK. So I'll give you the money, and you give me this. In fact, you might as well come in with me. Who are you?
David.
David, come inside, David, and you can sell it. Everybody in the studio has to buy one before they come out, OK? You think that's all right?
Yeah, that's
all right. In there, OK. Well, you find you'll be too hot dressed up like that, so if you take your hat off and take your jacket off. OK. You go right. Let's get over there, David. Right, that's good. Now. OK. Thank you. Thank you. All right, shush. My God, half the programme's over already. Are you well?
Brimming with glee. How are you?
Very well, very well. I don't know why. I assumed you were going to be over there, but you were here instead just to keep me on my toes, weren't you?
Well, you know what we're like, James.
I do.
I'd like to introduce you to Martin and Pip.
Martin and Pip, how are you? Right. Nice to see you. Now, you design... What do you design?
I design hats.
You design hats?
And jewellery.
And jewellery. And very nice it is, too.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
And Pip... No, Pip, you're Pip, sorry. Martin designed this fab frock.
Well, what sort of frock would that be?
Well, the inspiration is...
This is from my Flowers and Fairies collection.
Well, you've got the right person wearing it. Yes. So you're a fairy tonight, are you, Cleo?
Apparently so,
yes,
James.
I see.
Right.
I'll play along. And you're showing, aren't you,
Yeah,
next week?
Next Monday, 22nd of March. It shows every day for 5 days. It's part of the Alternative Arts Fashion Week. There's about 25 designers involved, and there's going to be sort of half a dozen people showing every day.
It's fab. I have to say, as a frock wearer myself, it really is comfortable. And
sorry, I'm just going to walk across
the
your
shop.
shop.
No testy bits and
Yes.
no low camera angles, please.
Yes, I see. No, I just wanted to get a whole look at it. Yes.
I'm sure you did.
Yes, that's very good. Go on.
And it's beautifully comfortable, and it's feminine but strong. So
Would you
really
wear that
lovely.
at Tesco's, though? You wouldn't, would you?
Sainsbury's?
I've had someone shopping in one of my hats in Sainsbury's like this.
Have you?
Yes, I have. And
Really?
it went down wonderfully at the checkout.
And nobody asked them to remove their hat and check what was inside it when they went out?
No, that's a good idea. You could get away with lots of things up here.
Why has British Fashion Week come in for so much criticism?
Just because there's no funding left anymore, and it's just getting... I mean, all the designers are obviously moving out of London and showing abroad, and that's why we're trying to do Alternative Fashion Week, to show that there are a lot of young designers that have no money but are putting work on, and it's going from there.
It's not only no
nice.
funding, there's no fun either.
OK, well, Claire's going to try some more bits and pieces on later.
Yes, I am.
OK, thank you for the moment, ladies and gentlemen. A little alternative fashion. Thank you. OK. Now, right, competition. Let's remind you, a couple of weeks ago, we gave some competition, some prizes away in Ibiza. I can't remember. I think I asked you where Ibiza was or what sea it was in. But anyway, we have a winner. That is Yvonne Deere of Biggleswade. Yvonne Deere of Biggleswade, who's going to San Antonio and have a lovely time and send us a postcard. Thank you very much indeed for that. And we'll tell you how you can win your holiday in Corfu a little bit later. Fantastic Corfu. Now, tonight, we need the competition now. Are you sure, Michael? Hang on. You're absolutely sure now we want the competition, are you? OK. Fine, we want the competition. OK, well, we're going to the competition now. Very easy. How do you spell Corfu? Coming up on the screen. Put that there. How do you spell Corfu? Is it A, C-O-R-P-H-U? What are you laughing at? I don't know how you spell it. Is it B, C-O-R-F-U? I didn't mean F-U, I meant... Anyway, never mind. Or is it C, K-O-R-P-H-double-oo? They all look like Corfu to me, so which way do you spell it? Phone 0891 900 007 if you know the answer, and you could be winging your way on a fantastic holiday to Corfu. Now, is that right? Can we go on now? I think we will. Thank you very much indeed. And camera 2, where... Oh, camera 2's over there. Right, let me introduce you first of all to Nick. Now, Nick, tell me exactly, Nick Hardwick is the director of Centrepoint in Soho. Nick, everybody talks about homelessness, usually during Christmas and the winter, and then forget about it for the rest of the year.
Sure.
Things, I believe, are getting slightly better.
Well, we do think that some of the government initiatives have helped us house people who have been on the streets a long time. But all the things that are being done at the moment, it's very much kind of ambulance at the bottom of the cliff, and what we'd much rather see is fences at the top that stop people becoming homeless in the first place.
Now, yesterday there was quite a big conference, wasn't there?
That's right.
Do you think that will do any good?
Well, what we were looking at particularly there was the very high proportion of young people that we see who've either spent most of their lives in care or who are very young, who are 16 or 17. And there's a new law, the Children Act, that says local authorities have really got to do more to house young people they've had in care or who are very young. But they aren't doing enough of it, and so we're trying to get them to do more.
Now, Helen Kay, perhaps you could tell me what exactly CHAR stands for.
It used to stand for the Campaign for Homeless and Rootless, but we've now calling ourselves Housing Campaign for Single People.
Mm-hmm. Why did you change your name?
Because we felt as if we were concentrating too much on people sleeping rough, and a lot of single people are actually homeless because they're staying on friends' floors, they're hidden homeless, and we wanted to...
Let's just clear this piece up as well. When we talk about homelessness, when glib people on television decide to discuss the homeless issue because they think they should, they imagine all the people sleeping rough on the streets. That is just the tip of the iceberg.
Completely the tip of the iceberg. And the fact that people are sleeping rough in London is just the tip of the iceberg. Most homeless people are outside of London, and the majority of young people who are homeless are doing the rounds of friends' floors, in hostels. A very few young people are actually on the streets.
When I went to Lincoln's Inn Field a couple of years ago to film the people who slept there, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'll go on. John Bird is the editor of The Big Issue. John, I'll bring you in here. This perhaps more relates to you. I found there were three sorts of people who were sleeping rough. People who'd been sleeping rough for a long time, and that was their way of life. They'd been sleeping for 15 or 20 years. People who genuinely couldn't cope with society and got trapped in this awful thing, no address, no job. And some people that I felt were doing it because it was exciting for the time, and they'd go back and they'd be okay in a year or so when they decided that was their time for doing it. Is that fair, or am I being a little unkind there?
No, I think you've got it right. I mean, there's people who make cultural decisions to live outside of society. They may live on the streets, they may live somewhere else. That's entirely up to them. The people we address are the people who want to get back into society.
How do we get, in 1993, how do we get to this situation in this country where we haven't quite slipped back to being a third world country yet, but, you know, we seem to be heading that way, where we have, so I believe it's nearly 2 million people in this country who are registered homeless. How have we got to this situation?
Well, I mean, there are three main reasons. First of all, there simply aren't enough homes. Right? The reason there are so many homeless is there aren't enough homes. Secondly, lots of people are being discharged from institutions like mental hospitals, prison, children's homes without enough support. And then thirdly, people simply haven't got enough money to live on. They can't even afford the housing that's there. So if you put together the high unemployment and the fact that young people in particular get such low benefits, social security, that's why you see so many people homeless. And the point is, if you go back only 3 or 4 years, you didn't see young people begging on the streets. You didn't see the same concentrations of people sleeping rough. That hasn't suddenly come about because of some great change in human nature. It's because the system changed and people fell through onto the streets.
Are we... A lot of people walk... I've seen people walking down the Strand in London where a lot of people sleep. And they're quite blatantly quite rude to people sitting in doorways. Quite nasty. Why are we in this situation, Helen? Why are people behaving like that?
I think because we've seen so many people who are sleeping on the streets, and in a way we're so used to seeing it now, it's not shocking anymore. But I think if you go outside of London, it's still very shocking to see people sleeping on the streets, and out there is a real sense of we must do something about this.
John, why did you decide... I mean, the big issue is here. Everybody in London knows. It's also on sale in Manchester and Brighton.
Yeah.
And it'll be on sale in the rest of the country or cities?
We're going to Scotland in, I think it's early June.
Did you get the idea for this? I mean, it's a great... For people who don't know, I mean, basically, people can come along and register Well, tell me how they do it.
Well, by the kind of grapevine, they get to know about the big issue. It's a lot of people who are moving into London, and it's a lot of people who have decided not to work with the big issue, but gradually realise that it's a good way of making a few bob, and it's not illegitimate. I mean, the old bill won't ever go at you, no one will ever go at you, and therefore you get into a situation where you can earn a living. The idea comes from America, like a lot of good ideas. It came via the Body Shop. Gordon Roddick, chairman of the Body Shop, introduced me to the idea, and 2 years ago this month I got off my arse and got the thing rolling. And I involved all sorts of people. I talked to people like Nick, I talked to the people at Char, I talked to a lot of homeless people, and nearly all of them said anything is better than begging.
OK, we're going to come back and talk quite a lot more on the programme about this. Thanks for the moment. Turning from one serious subject to a little entertainment, that's always a difficult thing to do, but we found a young lady, young David, who gets all the things together on this programme, was in a bar, he told me, in Fulham. What he was doing in a bar in Fulham, I have no idea, but he was in this bar in Fulham. He saw this young lady sitting at a piano, singing, and said, we've got to have her on the show. Now, the interesting thing, looking through her biography here, she was brought up on the west coast of Ireland by Catholic nuns. She was in an orphanage, brought up by Catholic nuns. She then moved to Dublin, started singing with a Donegal band called the Rascals, moved to London, sang with such groups as Ozibisa, the Cane Gang, Misha Paris, the Fine Young Cannibals, then went off to America and sung with the Platters, but she said not the original Platters. Now she is back in this country, and I think she should have a huge hit. Please, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time on national television as far as I can remember, please welcome Yvonne Brennan.
At the foot of the stairs, kneeling down on wooden floors, see your face peeping through cracks. It's my mother, like a rainbow, saying grace in soft white lace, forgiving him for violent roars. I feel his hands breaking her small back and her pain as she stumbles out the door. I live in peace in my imaginary house at the back of the sky where Jesus and I get high. With the man in a circle spinning around with black eyes watching me. With the man in a circle spinning around, he'll kiss goodbye my misery. Saying grace as I brush my teeth, washing out my wounded soul. I see his tears running from the tap. They're my father's from many moons ago. I give him keys to my imaginary house at the back of the sky where Jesus and him can get high. With the man in a circle spinning around with black eyes watching you. With the man in a circle spinning around, he'll kiss goodbye your misery. There's a man in a circle above, tearing churches down. High priest with 2 ill crowns to the ground. There's a man in a circle above, says we've lost faith in ourselves. Saying grace as I lay down to sleep, retiring from my daily chores. I see this world I am between my sheets, and darkness behind blindfolds. I give you keys to my imaginary house at the back of the sky, where Jesus and y'all can get high. With the man in a circle spinning around, with black eyes watching you. With the man in a circle spinning around, he'll kiss goodbye your misery.
Wonderful. Let's, okay. That was good. Do you know, I was looking at the monitor, and I thought, like a young Shirley Bassey.
Oh, God.
No.
No offence to Shirley, but...
No, that's good. Why haven't you got a record deal? I keep asking people we have on the show.
I don't know, James. I think if you'd asked me that question 2 years ago, I would be upset by that remark. Now I think I want to perform and play as much as I possibly can, and a record deal is not the most important thing to me. Of course, I want to have a record deal, but that's not why I'm singing.
Well, will you come back and play again?
I'd love to.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, Yvonne Brennan. Now, just before we go to the break, if you want to win that week in Corfu, all you have to do is spell Corfu and ring this number coming up now, 0891 900 007. We'll be back in a couple of moments, so don't go away. 2, 1, break. Welcome back, Whale On, and this Friday night, Saturday morning, of course, this is a spot in the programme where Isaac Hayes joins us to talk about all your legal problems because, of course, at the moment, legal aid is far too expensive for anybody to get. Well, that's wrong, isn't it, really?
Well, my name's Gary Jacobs again. I don't know where you keep getting these false names from.
Because you said just before, why didn't you call me...
I deny that. I deny
Hayes?
that. I deny that.
Hayes.
With you calling me Jerry Hayes and Jerry... Come on, let's get on with the question.
Shall we get on with it? OK,
yeah,
we had loads of letters in, so what I'm going to do, a letter here, you're going to do some people in the audience, and let's go for it. First of all, this letter comes from Ashton-under-Lyme, and basically it says, this lady's written to you, her name is, I won't tell you her name, Julie, we'll call her Julie. She says, could you please, Mr. Jacobs, advise me if and how I can take legal action against my GP? He prescribed me a slimming pill 2 years ago. I have since discovered that he was at great fault. There are many medical reasons why I should not have been given these pills. It's left me in a very depressed state. It went wrong, basically. I've spoken to other GPs outside of my own surgery, and they tell me that they would not dream of prescribing these highly addictive pills to anybody. You know the sort of situation.
I know the situation. The law says that if a doctor fails to exercise a proper duty of care, which he owes to you, that he is being negligent. And if he's negligent, he can be sued, he is insured, and you will recover damages. But a doctor may make a mistake and not necessarily be negligent, so you have to be very, very careful. If you're going to go to a solicitor, which you must do, make sure she goes to one who is an expert in that field. There is a special scheme now for experts in that field.
So she should do something about it?
Absolutely.
She shouldn't just leave it?
Not let it go. She's got 3 years from when she first discovered this problem, so she should move very fast.
She goes to see a solicitor?
Absolutely,
if she can afford one. OK, we've got some questions in the audience. Let's go for the first one.
This gentleman here, the
David.
big issue vendor, yes.
Before I started selling the big issue, I actually begged. Why did I have to beg for money?
Why did you beg? I don't know why you begged, but let me ask you, how old were you when you were begging?
I was 16.
Well, you see, we have a government that's introduced laws relating to the provision of benefits for people under the age of 18, and you get the precise figure of 0. And I'm afraid to say it's the government to whom you must address that question, not me as a lawyer. So far as begging is concerned, it's regarded by magistrates' courts as a very serious offence, and they put people into prison for it 4 or 5 days at a time. Or they fine them a fine that they can't pay, and they go to prison as an alternative. It's an absolute bloody disgrace, and it's one of the worst things about our current society. I'm sorry you phrased that. Bloody disgrace.
Okay, fine,
when I go to court, I represent beggars. 3. I represent beggars free of charge. I call it Jacob's Aid, and I will continue doing it until such time as courts stop imprisoning them. And I can tell you, when I go to court, they actually listen to me and they don't imprison them. Lady there.
I got food poisoning the other night, and I'm sure it was after I ate a Chinese meal at my local restaurant. Now, is there anything I can do about it, like claim refund or something?
Well, refund? What about your additional losses, such as 1 or 2 rolls of toilet paper and Sanilav?
Please.
You have to prove. Of course, it's disgusting to wail on. You have to prove. Don't mean it, James. Don't mean it. You have to prove.
30 seconds.
You have to prove that the restaurant sold you bad food. Not an easy thing to do, but the local trading standard officers could send the food people in, the health people in, may be able to do something. Lady over there, quick question.
One quick one.
Yes.
Hi. My next door neighbour plays loud music all night. Now, I've been next door, asked him to turn it down, he refuses.
Well, the answer for you is to play even louder music until he takes you to court, and then you both get damages against each other. Just play louder music back. It may be illegal, but it's no different to what he does.
Failing that, get Gary to come round and Jacob's Aid will deal with it.
Absolutely.
He'll sit on them for you. Gary Jacobs!
Thank you.
Actually, while I think about it, we are blessed on this programme, you know, with probably the best camera crew of any TV show, because, you know, we're limited in what we can do. Have you noticed that?
Well, they managed to get me in screen. I noticed
they do indeed. And, I mean, Jeremy over here... he doesn't deserve it. Jeremy over here... There we are. Jeremy keeps... There's a shot of Jeremy, who's got probably one of the best suntans. He's probably been on this Corfu holiday, actually. I don't know. And over here, over this one, on camera 3 here, this is Barry. And on a show I used to do, I used to say that we had Britain's smallest but most perfectly formed camera person.
Yes.
But Barry's even smaller than that one. And Barry... I mean, look how Barry is small. Look. Get off here. Look at this. Cut up camera 3. And see, I mean, I could do this. See, this is very good indeed. Look, very, very, very nice. Do you like that? Very good shot. OK, and that's quite good too. So give him a nice round of applause. And where was camera 2? We'll do him later. OK, Cleo.
Hello.
Oh, carry on.
Over at the hats here, James.
Yes, very nice.
They're fabulous. They're very Hollywood. Hats for real women. I always feel when you put a hat on like this, you should automatically be able to speak French.
Hooray for her. Yes.
And these are just a display of some of Pip Hackett's creations here.
Yes, these are a preview of my spring-summer collection, and there will be a show at the fashion market.
Will they?
At Spitalfields.
How much would one of these cost me? I mean, if I wanted to wear
James,
one of these...
why don't you... This one, I think, would be fab, James. Look.
Do you think I want
Oh, yes.
Okay. No laughing. Go on, how much would this cost me?
Oh, it's fantastic.
OK.
Now it'll cost you.
Now it's shop soiled, how much will it cost?
That one's not been priced, but they're normally around £100 and £150. And they're all one-off pieces.
Yeah. They're all handmade, though, and they're all beautifully made.
And they're all made of silks and velvets, so they're really good quality fabrics.
Yeah, I think they're lovely. They're very nice. Yeah.
I just want to say that Pip Hackett and Martin Pennells will be doing strutting their stuff at the Spitalfields Market on 26th, next Monday, from 1 o'clock. 22nd, next Monday, from 1 o'clock onwards, and I'll be there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And perhaps we could get Mr. Mansfield to wear one. That one in the middle looks like his hairstyle anyway, when I think about it. Look at that. That one, look, that's, yeah. Doesn't that look like Mr. Mansfield? Right, back we are. Welcome now to John Bowies, John Battle, and Chief Superintendent Gallipoo, who are with me. We're back talking about the homeless problem. Now, John 1 here is Tory MP. John 2 here is Labour MP. He's actually the housing spokesman for the Labour Party. And Chief Superintendent is Brian, so I'm going to call him Brian and not John. Let me just start with you, because Gary was saying that magistrates take a very, very dim view of people who are brought before them begging and people who sleep on the streets, and they seem to feel they ought to clean the streets up. How do your officers feel? Because your patch covers the Bull Ring, doesn't it?
Yes, if I'm just speaking as the Chief Superintendent that is in charge of Kennington Division, we've got the Bull Ring on our ground, and it's one of the centres, quite well-known centres for homeless and rough sleepers. And indeed, we do have begging offences there. But to put a bit of scale onto it for you, in the last year, and bear in mind we're almost a quarter of the way through the year now, we've actually had 13 beggars that have actually been arrested in this division. Bear in mind it is quite a busy centre. Of those 13, 12 of them were actually cautioned by police at the police station, Also bear it in mind that almost without exception, the beggars that were arrested will have been
it's all right.
will have been cautioned prior to that. And there was one begging charge actually appeared before a magistrate. And I can't speak for definite on that case, but the pattern generally is that before anybody goes to court, there is a history and a pattern of them being warned.
Are you happy that your officers actually don't treat homeless people with contempt? Do they treat them with sympathy? Are you happy about it?
I'm absolutely satisfied, and we've got very good information and feedback from the groups that actually work in support of homeless people. And in particular, when I talk about homeless people, I take the point that was being made earlier on, that I am particularly looking at the rough sleepers, the people that aren't in
This, as we said
hostels.
before, of course, is the tip of the iceberg. Let me come on to John Boas, because, John, I mean, I suppose, although you're not to blame for what the government does, well, yes, you are. What the hell am I saying? How in 1993 did we come to this? I mean, I know that Rough Sleepers, the Rough Sleepers Guide that Sir George Young initiated, has done quite well, and we've got, I think, they reckon in London it's 420 or so people sleeping rough on the streets, which is good news. But how have we got to a situation where over 2 million people are registered homeless?
Well, you're right to say it's good news. It was 1,300 a year ago. It's 400 this year.
We can leave the good news now, John, and move on to the...
Just remember that only 20 of those are under 18. So that's good news. You're quite right. There's a problem. The problem stems from many social changes, for a start. I mean, let's give you one statistic. 1 in 4 of young people before the age of 16 are going to witness the breakup of their parental home.
OK,
now,
that
means a lot of people coming out of that and needing to be housed.
Let's take that as read, though.
Yep.
But that we have now a situation where young people, 16, who leave school, can't get onto a training scheme, can't get any money or any financial support. Your government brought these regulations in. Do you feel that that was the wrong thing to do or not?
I think it was partly the wrong thing to do. Let me say that...
Do you know, now, we've got to stop there, because I'm so pleased... That was the first time a politician has actually said that. That is good. I admitted it, right.
Let me say what...
Now, hang on. Now wait for it, because he's got to remember he has to meet John Major at some point. Go on.
Let me say that I think there was a reason for it, which was not to put anything which encouraged people to leave home unnecessarily, if there were jobs, if there was education, and if there was a young YTS scheme available. What was important was, quite right, sometimes there aren't those things, and that's when we have to look at the financial support needed for young people. Now, as you know, it used to be cut off below 18. What the government, and Nick Scott in particular, did in 1989 was to look at that and say, no, there are some young people leaving home justifiably, and that was the term used.
Now,
and those are the people who are now picked up by the income support system, so they can get, importantly, the benefit, and that leads on to the other things.
OK. Now, we're going to open this up to the audience in the last part of the programme, so we will be coming to you. John Battle, Labour spokesman for housing. Without getting into the sort of knocking one side or the other, let's just look at what is happening. We have this situation where there are so many people who have no job. There's no prospect for a lot of people. There are no jobs, there's no money. Right. How can you improve people's perception of what life has to offer to them?
I think that I'd connect it back to the first question when you asked Nick Hardwick, and he said, no point ambulances at the bottom of the cliff, why not put fences up? In other words, there's a shortage of homes. There's 3 things that could be done straight away. I think this man's wrong. John Major cut that benefit in 1988. I was on the committee when it happened, and we said that would force people to leave home. One lad committed suicide in Armley Prison in my constituency as a result of that decision. It wouldn't cost a lot of money. Give the 16 and 17-year-olds the benefit back now. It could be done in the budget.
But at the moment, this country is going broke. We have no money in the budget. They may, you know, what are we going to do?
I don't accept that we're going broke, particularly on housing, because if the government could do a bit of joined-up thinking, there's 100,000 new houses needed. We know there's nearly 2 million homeless. I go on a train from Leeds to London and pass fields full of bricks. 600 building workers lose their jobs every day. But the money's there, James. There's £5.7 billion pounds that councils can't spend building houses. It should be spent.
John, too. Hold on just a minute. Why can't that be done? Why can't we get building people back to work to build houses?
It can and it must. Shelter gave a figure of between 30 and 90,000 homes needed per year for the next 10 years. That's Shelter's statistic, not the government's. What is happening this year? 65,000 new homes are being provided by housing associations. What's happening this year? We got new initiatives to bring back flats over shops. We've got new initiatives to the rent-a-room scheme, which gives people a tax incentive to let out their rooms for low rent. These are schemes which are bringing houses and homes back. And one other thing, if
it's a bit late, though, isn't it,
if every
John?
council,
It's a bit
if every
late.
council, particularly Labour councils, I may say, got back into use the thousands and 10,000 in London, homes which are now empty, then we could begin to solve these problems overnight.
OK, we're going to come back and argue that in a few moments, because there are houses boarded up. You see them everywhere, and we'll talk about that, John 1 and John 2 and Brian. Thank you for the moment. Now, on 3 over there, that's little Barry. OK, now, last week we said, would you like to vote on whether capital punishment should be brought back? And, of course, we all knew that the majority of people out there just like blood, gore, guts and everything else. 79%, thousands of you, rang the vote line to say yes, capital punishment should be brought back, which depresses me even more than I was already. And 21% of you were intelligent enough to say, no, it doesn't really do any good. So we decided, well, on the programme we ought to have a little entertainment to cheer us all up. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome magician extraordinaire, Humphrey Jones. Humphrey, lovely to see you, Humphrey.
James, I'm about to say.
Humphrey,
it's Humphrey James, not Jones.
Is it?
Yes!
Ah, well, just bear me up, because they think I'm a bit stupid. What does it say there?
Jones.
Yeah, OK, so it wasn't my fault, was it?
Jones. It's
Because
not your
they
fault.
get at me all the time.
They get at you all the time.
They get at me the whole time. They shout at me.
Should we stick his head in this?
Yeah, but we won't get him down from upstairs while we're doing it. OK. Now, Humphrey, do you want to carry on? Or
Well, yes,
because
because
it's exciting, isn't it?
It's exciting, and as you said, 79% wanted the death penalty brought back.
I'm going to go over here, all right?
You'll be over there, James, and I'll be over here. So what I'd like to have done is put a French fisherman's head in this, but unfortunately we couldn't find someone in the background there. So what I would like to do is to bring on my assistant, and I'd like to give him a nice big warm welcome, and that is, of course, Fifi, over here. Oh! What do you mean, get him off? As you can see, I am dressed as a French revolutionary, and Fifi's dressed as a... well, enough of that. OK, Fifi.
Funny.
Pardon?
Nothing, you're not funny.
Funny. I thought you said something else there, begin with that. But here we go, we have a solid blade. OK, now, Fifi, what I'd like you to do... Is that your real name? I don't think so. OK, now, Fifi, what I'd like you to do is to put your head in the hole. This hole here. Can you do that?
Oui, monsieur.
He's saying it in a French accent. He didn't do that earlier. OK, Fifi, get your head into the hole. Oh, Fifi, not yet. Because just before I do this, just to prove the blade goes down the hole... Let's work it, Fifi, let's work it. Look, can you see the blade? Yes, the solid blade. OK, Fifi, whoops-a-daisy. Nice little smile there, Fifi. Lovely, lovely. Good bit of improvisation. OK, head in the hole, Fifi. Watch the hair, please. No gags over there. Watch the wig, watch the wig. OK, now, Fifi, pull your shoulders back, Fifi. Pull your shoulders back. OK, there we go. No. Yes?
I was just thinking, Humph, I know this is sort of comic and everything else, and supposedly funny.
Yes.
But seeing that 79% of people out there want to see an execution, and I know it doesn't go very well for you, why don't we do it? Why don't we just go for it? You don't mind, Daddy, do you?
Yes!
No. Why don't we...
Yes! Yes!
Why don't we...
Come on!
Yeah, because I think... OK, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Go on, let's go for it. All right, Danny?
Oui, monsieur.
Good.
Oui,
fine, okay.
monsieur. It's Fifi. Well, you see, a bit of a close one here. If I could just have that for a second. Just this is the type of thing that happens if it goes real. It's only real. It's got like a bit cut out.
In the audience, you're okay. You're going to get splattered with blood. Is it okay? I'm sorry, you're going to get splattered with blood.
Oh, yes, you are.
Oh, yes, you are.
It's not pantomime. James, can I do one more thing?
What?
Can I eat some razor blades?
Yes, if you want.
Oh, can I really?
We're building the time up. We've got to go to a break in a minute.
Is it okay? Can I just quickly do this?
Yeah, OK.
Okay,
Go on.
Can we have just six of these things? Here we go.
Yeah. Where's the blood? You all right down there, Danny?
Oui, monsieur.
You What? OK. They're actually made of chocolate. Don't do this at home.
No, don't do it at home. Don't do it at home. Because what we do, break this up. Are you OK, Fifi?
Come on, we've got to get on with it. Come on, Humph. What are you doing now, Humphrey? What? Oh, I see. You put the cotton in. Yeah. Come on, Humphrey, come on. Oh, very good, yeah.
OK.
Very quickly, Jerry, we've got to do this very quickly. One thing is, as soon as the head is severed, I believe you have 20 seconds left before you're able to... You're able to talk for 20 seconds when your head comes off. Shit! OK. Don't worry about it. Hang on, just a minute. Camera's down here. Danny, have you got an arm free? Just sign the bottom of this for me, will you? Dear. OK, so we're not fantastic. All right, can you get on with it? Let's go for it. Go on. OK.
That's comedy, James. OK, here we go. OK, Fifi. Ready? Go! Fifi! Fifi, speak to me, Fifi!
I'm speaking myself.
He's speaking!
I'm speaking myself.
And it's... Oh, my God! Fifi, stand up, stand up, stand
Ryan,
up.
come with
it's
me.
OK! Thank you! Thank you!
OK, enough. We're running out of time. Over here to me. We're going to take a break. If you want to win that club-styled holiday in Corfu, don't forget, how do you spell Corfu? Ring this number coming up on the screen. There we are. And you could win that fantastic holiday to Corfu. We're going to take a break, back in a couple of moments, so don't leave that out. Looking around, I see that we have our friends from the Central St Martin's School of Art in here doing the scenery as we speak. Oh, wonderful, very nice. Anybody ever sees one of these they'd like to buy, make me an offer. Oh, and while I'm thinking about money, we had a very interesting letter the other day from somebody who sent us an enclosure. I can't say what it is, but that person who sent us all sorts of very interesting things. I can't talk about money and stuff like that. Please could you get in touch, because we'd like to thank you personally. I would like to take it home, but they won't let me, but please could you get in touch. That's a little message between me and somebody who wrote in. A lot of people wrote in, want me to stop being quite so horrible to Jerry over here. The Honourable Member for Harlow, ladies and gentlemen. OK, Jerry. I'm very, very sorry. Hang on. I'm very sorry, Jerry. I'm not going to be rude about you or question any sort of sexuality, anything. I'm going to do that. No, I am not. I am not. That's my microphone. And I'm going to be very nice to you. So, Jerry, first of all, what about the Tory rebels? You've been in a lot of trouble. I know you're a Tory. You want to see us in Maastricht. You want to see us do the whole business.
Of course I do. Of course I do.
No one else does.
They are political pygmies. They're becoming the gnomes of Maastricht. I mean, these people who are now household names weren't even household names. They weren't even... It is Mellor. Don't be so rotten. But what Mellor said was right was...
They weren't even household
names in their own household.
Yes.
I thought that was quite good. But it's true. I mean, they're wrecking the Conservative
Can I ask you a serious point?
They're humiliating the government.
Just man to man, a serious point. Okay. What benefit will it be to us if we are a member of the EC? What benefit will it actually be?
55% of everything we export goes to Europe. Why? Well, it's not bollocks.
I mean, nobody's exporting anything.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We get an enormous amount of manufacturing industry from Germany coming to this country, from Japan, from America, and it's all because of Europe. And these people want to rip it all up. Now, that means jobs.
But listen, as soon as the jobs in Germany look threatened, as they are at the moment, there's trouble. As soon as the jobs in France are threatened, as they are at the moment, the fishermen come out and destroy all that food. In a world that is starving, we're throwing food away.
Not true. There's 3 million unemployed in France, and yet they moved the Hoover factory over to Scotland. That says a lot about this country.
They probably get paid less wages in Scotland. That's probably the only reason.
I don't know about that. But the fact is, it's jobs. It's jobs. It's jobs. At the end of the day, it's jobs, and that's very important.
OK, one last thing I want to talk to you about. What about racism in the health service? The BMA has come out. They're quite upset. These two doctors carried out a little survey to find out whether or not there is such a thing, and they found there is. What can the government do about that?
Well, that does surprise me. I hadn't actually heard about this, but what does worry me even more is about the sort of way doctors are being victimised who are HIV positive. And there's a big scare campaign going on by the national newspapers who actually won't listen to the reality and the truth of the reality is that doctors are far more at risk from patients than the other way around.
Yes, I was interested to know, I mean, if we're going to have to ask doctors to tell us whether or not they're HIV positive, then perhaps doctors should ask patients whether they are before they decide to treat them.
I mean, look what a surgeon does. He actually delves into your body. He's covered in blood. OK, he's probably got 2 gloves. I know it's a bit disgusting, but he's probably got 2 gloves on. If he pricks his finger, he's far more at risk than the other way around. There is not one recorded incident.
Jerry, thank you. It's been lovely tonight. And I want to say, for all those people who want, that Jerry is one of the few MPs, and we've got some more over here who are prepared to come on this programme, and bless him for that, because he doesn't know what I'm going to ask him.
True.
Go.
Thank
and
you.
take your chair with you. All right, Jerry Hayes, ladies and gentlemen. Right. You're taking part in this anyway, aren't you? Yeah. Right, where's Paul Edgerton? Put your hand up, Paul. Where's Paul? Over here. Paul works for the Big Issue. Paul, until recently, you were sleeping rough. Is that right? That's okay. Right. Can we get the microphone close enough there? We'll direct this as we go along. Paul, what sort of self-esteem, try to explain for us, does somebody have who's living on the street?
You haven't got one, basically. You feel like dirt, yeah? You're sitting in your doorstep at night, which is what I was doing. I may have had a can of beer, doesn't matter. I've got people walking past me, spitting at me, telling me to call me a dosser, expletive, fuck off, etc. Yeah, go and get a job. Like, I mean,
how did you get to that situation? I mean, why were you sitting in doorways under a blanket, sort of just sitting there thinking there's no future, no hope?
Whole load of reasons, but basically I ended up with, in London, losing a job, not being able to afford the accommodation I had, and on the streets. And
who do you blame?
Everyone, as well as myself.
You blame yourself as well, though. That's
yeah.
interesting. You do blame yourself.
Yeah, as well as everyone else, so, I mean, it's sort of like government policy, local authority policies, social security, but myself as well, because, like, I was going nowhere. I couldn't get anywhere, so I gave up. But that's so easy to give up, because you're in a situation to give up.
Nick from Centrepoint, now sitting in the audience. Nick, I mean, how often are people actually prepared like that to blame themselves?
I think one of the most difficult things is people do think it's their fault. And the first thing you lose on the streets is your self-respect. And it's very hard to put that back for people. But I'm not surprised that, you know, people go off and they work for the Big Issue or they get other jobs. If you give people a roof over their head, you give them a bit of a start, then they make the rest of the way on their own normally. But of course, if you're on the streets, it's so demoralising, it's really difficult to pick yourself up. And I'd say to any homeless people, it's not their fault. You shouldn't blame yourself for it. A few years ago, people like you wouldn't have been on the streets. It's changes in policy that put you on the streets, not your own stupidity.
What do you feel about the government's recent Rough Sleepers initiative? Do you think it has been successful?
I think the government has spent, I think it's £96 million over 3 years.
It's a lot of money,
It is a lot of money. I mean, one of the
pounds.
things you've got to be quite clear about is that this is a problem that can be solved. If you spend money on it, then the problem decreases. And simply to rubbish, when the government does spend money, simply to rubbish it, plays into the hands of people who think, oh, well, there's nothing you can do, all these people are hopeless, you can't do anything for them. So I welcome every single penny the government spends, and that's better than nothing at all. But I think they should spend more. I think they should stop people becoming homeless in the first place, and particularly they should stop, you know, the vast number of young people who live in care, who've actually been looked after by the government. The government's been their parents, they've been in care, and then they're turned out onto the streets afterwards. And that's a scandal that should be stopped.
Do you agree with that, Helen? Sitting behind. Yeah.
I do agree. I do agree, but I think there's very little point in spending millions in London when the problem isn't being dealt with outside of London. And until we start making initiatives outside of London, building the houses that we need outside of London, people are still going to be coming down to London to become homeless down here.
Let me go back over to John Bird. John... Not John Bird, John Battle. There's so many Johns tonight, this is causing me a problem. John, Labour Party say that they would do better. You come from Yorkshire. You know that there are problems outside London.
Yeah.
People in Yorkshire tend to feel they come down to London, they can solve the problem just by doing that. What would you say to people who, at the moment, are sleeping rough, maybe in Leeds?
There are people sleeping rough in Leeds, and the difference has been 20 years ago in Leeds, there were people sleeping rough then. They tended to be men who were broken by war or alcohol. So they were, you know, the classic man that was there. Now it's families, and now it's young people. I spent some time on the streets of London talking to youngsters homeless in London. What I was surprised about was the number of people, I asked them where they came from. They didn't say Leeds, Brighton, Birmingham or Bristol. They said we came from an area of London. There are people now, more people sleeping out on the streets of Brighton, percentage-wise, and in Bristol than in London. And I think what we've got to do is to say it's not just a London problem. Youngsters are not flooding to London anymore because they realise there aren't jobs there. It's happening in every town and city, and that's why the government could do a simple thing. Extend, I agree with Nick, it's welcome, a Rough Sleepers initiative. Extend it a bit more. Put it where it's needed in the towns and cities outside to stop people coming to London.
John Boris, you're the MP for Battersea, and Battersea has its own problems, obviously, as you know. Now, why won't the government allow local authorities to spend this money that they've got at the moment in their coffers from the sale of council houses, which could be used to do so much good? Why won't they do that?
Well, it will and it is. And this year, of course, there's a particular initiative which permits local councils to spend their receipts through till
John
December
says
this year.
no.
Well, it is the case for this year. But
only what they sell this year, and nobody's buying anything this year.
The answer to your question is if you just allowed every council to sell what it gets, then most of the councils with the money to spend on homelessness will be the councils which are much better off.
Why don't you agree, John? Tell me your side.
What we need is money to be passed through the government to the areas of the country which need it.
OK, John Battle, the other side, briefly, because I want to go back into the audience.
Well, the government's not spending. There's 5.7 billion locked away, and then we press the government to spend that money, let councils build. And you could build in a mechanism that shares it out fairly according to need. But the government said no, and then they released it at last autumn statement in November to say you can spend next year's money, but of course they're not selling any houses this year, so there won't be much of it. That money's still locked away. It could be used, and we could tackle the housing crisis and homelessness by using it now.
I want to come to these two young ladies in the front here. You both live at Centrepoint. Tell me why. First, briefly, why do you live at Centrepoint? I mean, why couldn't you get somewhere else to live? Did you try?
I tried. I got another place that I looked at, but I didn't like, and then I was referred to Centrepoint.
Did you feel when you were referred to Centrepoint, because people hear about Centrepoint and they're not sure what it is? I mean, everybody knows if they come to London where Centrepoint is, and you think, my God, I've been sent there. I mean, I'm really at the bottom. What am I going to do? Were you worried when you were sent there?
I was worried because I was on my own, just being chucked out and everything, but it's...
You see, what I'm trying to get at, I'll come over here.
Yeah, because I think that a lot of people don't really interpret the law correctly. The local authorities actually have an obligation to house people who are homeless, providing they're not intentionally homeless. And they have a priority need. And priority need, in fact, includes people who are vulnerable or people who have been forced out of their home. And they cannot use being forced out of their home as a reason to say they're homeless.
Let me just... that's a good point. But what I want to find out from you is... What's your name?
Noha.
Noha. What I want to find out is... Here you are. I mean, you've got a job now?
No.
No job at all. What would you like to do? What aspirations do you have for your life?
To get a job and get my own flat.
Yeah.
And just start a new life for myself.
What are the chances? What do you think the chances of doing that are now?
Just work hard at it, basically.
Are you depressed about it?
Sometimes I get very depressed.
I mean, presumably at Centrepoint you have a room, but you don't really have any real privacy. You don't have somewhere you could go and sort of lay your stuff out, look, you know, think about your life. OK, John Boas from the Tories. Why? Why? I mean, why is Una like this? Why are other people... She's very embarrassed, I know. She doesn't want to talk about it. But why? I mean, she isn't the stereotypical person that you assume
Nor
is
can I say it was Paul. I think Paul sums up all the best of this programme, if I can say so today, because Paul is not seeking to blame other people. Now, if we got away from the blaming and start looking at the causes and the solutions, we can then start to solve this problem. And housing is the start, because unless you've got a base, a home, you can't qualify for so many benefits and job opportunities and training and so on.
I don't have enough time for us to get into a real hodgepodge argument tonight, which I'm sure we could do. So I just want you to clarify for me, in simple terms, why the government can't do something about it. It's an obvious problem. There are a lot of people to attract, young people particularly.
The government can do something in terms of solutions. £8.5 billion into public housing this year. That's money going into all sorts of schemes. What the government can't do is stop some of the problems occurring, because 60% of the people who are homeless have actually left home because of a break-up of a relationship.
So what would you say to some of these people? Are they putting themselves on the street? Are they doing it themselves?
No, they're not.
Is that what you say?
No, they're not. And that's absolutely a fair point to say that
Jerry
if somebody is at risk, the law should be there to protect them, because that's what it does. And it does allow for income support and so on to be granted. I'm not sure that every official in the DSS offices realise that or use that, but the law is there to help people.
We're going to carry on for a minute. Let me remind you, if you want a crack at that holiday, how do you spell Corfu? The number coming up on the screen there. We're going to carry on. John Battle, just before we go, what do you... I mean, I don't want to hear the arguments between the two sides, but what could the local Labour councils do that don't seem to be doing at the moment?
Well, I think the law needs to be changed, and I would agree with that, because young people, single young people, are not classed as statutorily homeless. So the Homeless Persons Act needs to be changed straight away to include youngsters in it. There's no doubt about that in my view. And then it means that local authorities have the obligation and will fulfil it.
Sorry, Helen, Kay.
There is a new piece of legislation which does say that homeless young people do have rights, and that's the New Children Act, which if you're 16, 17 and you're homeless, the local authority now has a duty not only to house you, but also to support you. It's a very
But
exciting
if they don't
piece of
have any money, they don't have any places to put you, you're going to end up in a place that a lot of young people don't want to stay in. I mean,
But
why
they
should
also
they
have a
stay in some
duty
of those places?
to go and get those services from voluntary sector agencies. There's not enough money to implement it, but it's a start.
Unfortunately, we've finished at this particular moment, but I mean, I would like us to maybe do this in another programme or go on a bit more. It doesn't really warrant sort of having lots of happy people clapping at the end, unfortunately.